Okay guys, we're going to regroup on section 11.6 and 11.7. We're going to slow down our pace a little bit and make sure that we're all on the same sheet of music. I'm going to go over a few problems from 11.6 first, even though that's not the section that you guys had the most trouble with. On 11.6 at the beginning of the section, they gave you two triangles and they asked you if they were similar or not. Remember, with similar, they have to have congruent angles and proportional sides. So you might have an example problem where you've got a couple angles listed out, and then over here I have a 54 and I have a 21. Now obviously for these two triangles to be congruent, they would have to have consistent measures on the other triangle. Well, I've got a 21 here and a 21 here. The problem is I don't know on these two angles. It's telling me that this angle and this angle would have to be somewhat congruent here. And I'm looking and I'm going, okay, well, I've got 100, I can figure out that angle. I've got 180 minus 21 minus 105. Okay, so when I do that, I get a 54 right here. So I have a 54 right there. Then I want to find this angle. Now see, I've got a congruency mark on those two angles. So I'm going, this angle would have to be congruent to that angle. Well, I come over here, 180 minus 21 minus 54 is going to give me 105. Well, they do have all three angles the same, but this angle being marked congruent to that angle is not a true statement. So I would have to put no on that one. Now, if I don't have that congruency mark on it, then I would turn around and go, yes, these two are congruent. Let's try another one. Maybe you try it, pause the video, and then come back and see if you got it right. That's always a good option to be able to do. Okay, this time I don't have any congruency marks on it, so I'm just checking to make sure that for every angle here, I have an equal angle over there. So I've got a 45 and I've got a 45. These two angles don't match up, so the question is going to be, what are those two angles? So again, I've got 180 minus 45 minus 80, which is going to give me 55. Well, I'm in good shape right now because I've got a 55 here and I've got a 55 here. Let me try this one. I've got 180 minus 45 minus 55, and that's going to give me an 80. So I know that angle is 80. Well, now all three angles match up to an angle on the other side. So this one would be similar. Okay? Now let's do one more problem out of 11.6. This was lower on your homework, lower on that page, and what you had was you had two triangles, and they had them all marked with letters. And then they told you that triangle KLM was similar to triangle NOP. And then they gave you different parts of the triangle. Well, understand, the side opposite M is little n, the side opposite K is little k, the side opposite L is little l, the side opposite N, P, and O. And then they gave you things like N equals 2.1, L equals 4.4, P equals 2.7, and O equals 3.3. Now, if I were you, I would draw the illustrations every time so that I could go back and I could label. So 2.1 goes right there. 4.4 goes right there. 2.7 and 3.3. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find this and this. So I'm going to set up a proportion, because remember the sides have to be proportional, so I have left to right. So on the left side, 4.4 is similar to the 3.3. They're both on the bottom of the triangle, okay? And I know that this side is proportional to this side. Then let's say I want to find the m. The m on the top is proportional to the 2.7 right there. So then I'm going to cross product here. And for the sake of space, I'll just go ahead and do this out. So I've got, let me turn the page here. Okay, on this particular one, I find out that that's 11.88 and m is equal to 3.6. I hope this is still in your viewing area. And then, so I've got a 3.6 right there. I'm going to do the same thing to find my k. So I've got k over, and the similar side over there is 2.1. So when I cross product and solve, I find that k is equal to 2.8. Of course, I'm multiplying that times that, and then I'm solving for the k. All right, so you should be able to do those problems without any problem. Understand, you cannot cross-reduce if there's an equal sign in between it, okay? They have to be multiplied together for you to cross-reduce. All right, so that's 11.6. You really didn't have as much trouble on that as you had on 11.7. So let's go through 11.7. Now, some of 11.7 is calculator use, and there might be a little issue with some of the calculators, but that's going to be hard to do through video. So we're going to do what we can do. Remember that the sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. Remember our little way to remember it? SOHCAHTOA. Okay, if you can remember that, you've got it. I would maybe give you a triangle. This was part of your homework. Let's say this is 3, 4, and 5. A, B, and C. I don't think you had any problems with this, but we're going to go through one anyway. So the sine, if I'm standing right here, and it's going to tell you what angle you're standing at. So if I'm looking for the sine of angle A, I'm looking for opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine angle A is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent of angle A is opposite over adjacent. I don't think you guys had any trouble with that. I will say if one of these has a square root on it, just go ahead and leave the square root as long as the square root's on the top. If it's on the bottom, you do have to get rid of it. If you can break the square root down, you must break the square root down. Okay, I don't think that was a major issue, but then there were issues with the calculator. Now, I don't know what calculators you're using. If you've got siblings that have a graphing calculator, that is the easiest thing to use on this. So I've got the sine of 45 degrees. It just wants you to punch it into the calculator. So depending on whether you're using a graphing calculator or you're using your phone, if you're using a graphing calculator, okay, you just put on the calculator sine. You hit the sine button, you hit 45, and you hit enter. And then you round it to 4 places after the decimal. So that would round to that. If I am on my phone, now you can get a scientific calculator on your phone, especially if it's an iPhone, if you turn your calculator sideways. Now on the phone, you've got to put the 45 in first and then press the sine button. So 45, then press the sine button, and it's going to give you the same thing. Okay? Now, what I want you to do is I want you to grab whatever calculator you're using, and let's make sure that we're getting the same answer on the next problem. So let's say I want the tangent of 75 degrees. Go ahead and try it on your calculator, depending on whether you're using something like this or whether you're using a phone. It should give you the same answer. Okay, the tangent of 75 is equal to 3.7321. Make sure you got that as an answer. If you're still having trouble trying to get it on your calculator or your phone, if you can text me what type of calculator you're trying to use, I can try and figure it out. We also did where we had to find the angles using the calculator. So that's going to look kind of different. We'll leave this up here and I'll show you an example. So let's say I didn't know that the angle was 75, and that's my unknown. So I've got the tangent of angle A is equal to 3.7321. All right, so let's say I want to be able to find that. I'm going to show you on the calculator and on your phone again. If you're using a graphing calculator, okay, all you have to do on this is you press the button that's second, which is up here at the top. Then you press the tangent, because that allows you to get to the word right above the tangent. So it's like the tangent to the negative first power. That's the inverse. And then I'm going to type in the 3.7321. So I have inverse tangent of 3.7321, and it's going to give me 75 degrees. Well, I happen to know that that's right because I had already done it backwards. This one, if you're on your phone, a little bit harder, but again, okay, you're going to turn it sideways, make sure it's cleared. You're going to press 3.7321. Then you're going to press the second button, okay? When you press that second button, those little number things down here should change. And so you should now have one that looks like the tangent of the negative first power, okay? You're going to press that, and you're going to get 75. Make sure that you can figure out how to do that on your calculator. Let's try one, see if you've got it. Let's say our problem says the sine of angle B equals 63. All right, you got a graphing calculator. If I'm looking for the angle, which I am here, I'm always going to use inverse. Inverse, well, let's see if I can spell it right. Okay, inverse is your sine to the negative first power, your cosine to the negative first power, your tangent to the negative first power. So I'm going to do the inverse of the sine, so I'm going to press second, and I'm going to press the sine button, and then I'm going to put in 63. Actually, yeah, I think it's probably decimal 63. Okay, so decimal 63, inverse. And I'm going to get 39 degrees. All right, pick up your phone if you're going to do it on your phone. Make sure it's cleared. Okay, now depending on whether you still have it on second or not, let's say you don't have it on second, you're going to press decimal 63. Then you're going to go over and press second if you need to. Your sine button should have changed to a sign with a -1 on it. You're going to press that, and you're going to get 39 degrees. So make sure you've got your calculator figured out. That's a big part on this one. Okay, so that brings us to a part of the material where you started to really struggle. And on this, they might give you a triangle, and they have a question mark here, they have a 16, and they have a 10. And you've got to figure out, and we'll call it angle A, what that measurement of angle A is. Well, remember when I said you were trying to find a measurement of the angle, you're always going to use an inverse. So first you need to figure out what inverse you're going to use. Here, if I'm standing here, I know opposite and I know hypotenuse. Well, opposite and hypotenuse is the sine. So I have the inverse sine of 10 over 16. So if you're using your graphing calculator, you're going to do inverse sine of 10 divided by 16, and it's going to give you 38, actually we'll go ahead and round it to the nearest degree, so it'll give you 39 degrees. So that would be the answer for A. If somewhere in your house you have a graphing calculator, I'm telling you it's a whole lot easier to do it, use that rather than the phone. Obviously, if you are in the classroom, you would be using mine, but we got to do this the weird kind of way, so we'll just adapt to it. All right, now you try this one. Okay, and then come back, and we'll do it together. If I'm standing here, okay, we'll call that A. I know adjacent, and I know hypotenuse. That's the cosine. I'm trying to find an angle, so it's the inverse cosine of 17 over 21. So I'm going to do inverse, which is second cosine of 17 divided by 21. And it's going to give me, rounded to the nearest degree, 36 degrees. Okay? Make sure that there's not a calculator issue. Make sure you can come up with that. Then the last part of the section, we actually solve for more than one thing in the triangle. We solve for all the missing spots of the triangle. So let's work on that. You know that this down here is 45 degrees, and you know that this is 8. Obviously this is going to be little b and little a. Well, the first thing I would do is I would solve for that angle. You know that this angle plus this angle plus that angle equals 180 degrees. So the measurement of angle A is equal to 180 minus 90 minus 45, which is going to give me 45 degrees. So I know that. Okay, without using any trig. Okay, let's stand right here, which is the angle I know. So let's say I want to find A. So I'm standing here, and I've got adjacent, and I want to know hypotenuse. That's cosine. So the cosine of 45 degrees is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Now this one's a little different because the A is on the bottom. I have to get it out from underneath the bottom. So I'm going to multiply both sides by A. So now I have A times the cosine of 45 degrees is equal to 8. I'm going to divide cosine of 45 degrees, cosine of 45 degrees. Now, this presents a problem on your phone. On a graphing calculator, all you have to do is go 8 divided by cosine 45, and it's going to give me 11.3. Harder on your phone. You're going to have to go ahead and get a value for that. So you're going to do cosine on your phone, or you're going to do 45 cosine. I'm going to clear it. So I have 45 and I have cosine, and it's going to give me, so the cosine of 45 degrees is 0.7071. Now I'm going to have to take clear it, I'm going to take 8 divided by 0.7071, enter. It's going to give me 11.3, okay, which is the same thing I got there. Much harder to do on your phone than on a graphing calculator. So I know that A is equal to 11.3, okay? Now, the truth of the matter is, you could do Pythagorean theorem now if you wanted to do that, or we could continue with our trig, which we will do here to have more work on it. I'm standing right here. If I want to, now I've got the hypotenuse, so I could use the sine here